Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I went to see the movie yesterday in my local theater and I wanted to share my opinion of it with you. But first, let me just briefly go back to Black Panther 1 and give you my opinion about that, but just very briefly, so you can then better appraise my opinion of the second one, basically. The first one, Black Panther, I really like that one. I Back in the day, I was really big fan of the MCU because, well, basically every movie that they put out was at least good, and most of them were really, really good or even great. And I was a really big fan of the MCU back then. Basically up until the End Game, which I also liked. But after Endgame, when we all know the MCU sort of declined after that. There were a few rotten eggs in the basket over the past 2 years, basically. But yeah, at that time, the MCU was still going strong. Every movie a hit, and I really liked the first Black Panther as a solid entry into the franchise. I thought it had a good story, interesting setting, interesting characters, well written characters, well played characters as well, so good actors. It was well directed, it was well presented, had good effects, entertaining, good pacing, not too short, not too long. So a really solid entry into the MCU, like a 7 or 8 out of 10, I would give it. I would have to see it again to give it the final rating. I haven't seen it in a while, but yeah, from what I remember from the last screening, basically, I would give it 7 or 8 out of 10. Now, what I didn't get back in the day, and I still don't get, is the hype that was surrounding it. So I just thought it was a solid movie. It was a good movie. It fulfilled its purpose, but I always felt that the political thing, the cultural thing surrounding it, I didn't really felt like that was anything that should factor into a movie's how shall I put it? Into reviewing a movie. I mean, a lot of people were just praising the movie back then for it being so revolutionary and featuring an all black cast in a big movie. And of course, it was revolutionary in that regard, but I just didn't feel why it deserved bonus points for that, because I will never give, and no one else should as well, no one should give a movie bonus points for being political or cultural significant. That's just, I mean, a movie is art. It should be appraised and rated as art, not as anything else. But I feel like with Black Panther, with the first movie, unfortunately, it was also rated as a political and cultural phenomenon, basically. And that was a bit of a problem for me leading up to the second movie, because I knew that would be a thing again. I knew that would factor in to a lot of people's views of the movie. I mean, we have seen it leading up to the movie. We are seeing it now after release. There's a battle going on in the internet over the movie's political and cultural significance, over wokeness, over inclusivity and female empowerment and whatnot. And please, people, just stop. I mean, of course, the studios should stop it as well. Don't use movies for political statements. Don't use movies to push any kind of agenda. Just focus on making good movies. That's all I want. I want to see good movies that where the first and main concern is telling a good story. If you can weave some diversity and inclusivity into that, all the better. But don't start with diversity and inclusivity and then try to make a movie from that. That will almost never work. But yeah, that was a little bit of a concern of mine leading up to Wakanda Forever. However, with Wakanda Forever, we have, of course, a unique situation where the movie is diverse and inclusive by its nature, by being set in Africa. So yeah, you basically don't have to come up with things. You don't have to race swap anyone. You don't have and because of the how the story developed and how the tragedy of Chadwick Boseman's death intervened, it didn't even have to race swap to gender swap anyone. I mean, were already a lot of female characters in the first movie, and yeah, uh, the Chala's passing or Chadwick Boseman's unfortunate passing basically made way to now give the mantle of the Black Panther to one of the female characters in the movie, and I feel in this instance here it actually makes sense. Um, of course, there's a movement out there that has called for recasting T'Challa, so basically replace Chadwick Boseman by another with another actor. I'm glad they didn't do that because I personally feel that this would have been disrespectful to his legacy to recast him with another actor because that would have felt like, yeah, okay, he's dead, we need to replace him, and I just that would be in my eyes disrespectful. Now, of course, there's people that are feeling just basically killing him off, and I can't say that without spoiling anything because it happens in the first 30 seconds of the movie, killing him off screen, and then just give the mantle of the Black Panther to another character in the movie is disrespectful. I don't see it that way. I don't see how you could arrive at that conclusion. But of course, opinions are opinions. I mean, I won't challenge that. I have my opinion. Other people have their opinion, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. So we live in a day and age where other people's opinions are not really accepted, but I think they should. I mean, you don't have to understand another opinion to accept it. And I absolutely do. If someone says no, they would have felt that it was more respectful toward Chadwick Boseman if they had recast the character with the male actor. Then I'm okay with that. I don't see it that way, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, personally, I feel like passing the mantle on to one of the female characters in the movie, in the story, that makes a lot of sense. It was done well, as was the tribute to Boseman, actually. I have to say that. Again, other people feel like it was not done well. And now, of course, at the end of the day, I don't think Disney, as a corporate identity, cares about the death of one of their actors. I don't think they do. They will tell they do, but I don't think they do because all they care about is money. They're a corporation. I don't know of any corporation that cares about anything else than money. That is my opinion. But anyway, even though I feel like the certainly the director and the actors uh, were saddened by the loss. I mean, we have the same director, we have the same actors, we have a lot of the same people making this movie as did the first one. So, and these people, I'm sure they felt the loss of their comrade, and they translated that into a beautiful farewell to Chadwick Boseman and to the character in the movie T'Challa as well. It was heartfelt, it was done with taste, it was done with respect. I don't care what Disney felt or whatever, or wanted or did not want, or did do or did not do, but the people making the movie, you can see and feel that they did respect and love Chadwick Boseman, and you can really feel that in the farewell scenes that they did. There are actually more than one. There's one at the beginning and there's another one later on. So I really felt that was done well. And yeah, they did not resurrect him via CGI for any kind of scene. We see a few flashbacks of him from previous movies, but we do not see any kind of resurrected T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman in the movie. And that is, I'm really glad they didn't go down that road, because I feel like that is, it can be done right, but most of the time I feel that sort of thing is a little bit disrespectful to resurrect a dead person just to have them in your movie. That, I don't think that is right. But anyway, enough about that. So yeah, I feel like they've handled this with good taste, and it makes sense in the way the story progresses, in the way the characters progress. The character development actually is very good in this movie, I think. But what is not good is, how shall I put it? The characters are well written. Their progression, their development is really good. There's a lot of stuff that's happening with these characters. They go through a lot of emotional stages. They have a lot of stuff to deal with, and I think the character arcs are resolved well in the movie overall. But I do have a little bit of an issue with the dialogue, and the dialogue is an integral part of a character, and if the dialogue doesn't work, the character also suffers. And I have to say that within this movie, I really felt like the dialogue was not as well crafted as it could or and should have been. I mean, I see that in a lot of movies these days. The dialogue very often feels like not much thought was given about it. I mean, if you have a movie with real good dialogue, like with really good dialogue, you can feel that people have really thought about this. They have gone through multiple iterations of this dialogue. They have tried different things out until they arrived at something that sounded just right for the character and that also sounded well when spoken by a good actor. With this movie, I didn't get that. I felt like every dialogue I heard, they went with the first version that came into their head. And I mean, the dialogue serves its purpose. It gets the story along, it gets the characters along, but it doesn't feel well crafted, if that makes any sense to you. So that is something that I would say, if I'm talking about the characters, I have also to talk about the dialogue, and a lot of times it didn't work for me. So that's that. So the characters, I really like them. The actors do a good job for the most part. There are a few little things in sort of supporting character roles where I felt like it wasn't very well acted, but the main cast all do a great job. Even the new additions. Yeah, there's one character that I have to say I would have, that I really didn't care much about. That was Ironheart, Riri Williams. I don't have anything about against the actress. She does a good job with what she's given, but she's not given much. The character is just sort of there as a device. She's not really properly introduced, and there's another problem. She serves as sort of an Iron Man replacement because she's a person in a flying armor suit, and you can't replace Iron Man. Just not possible. So it's couldn't you have introduced any other character to fill that role? I mean, it's at the end of the day, that role is just a device for the plot. It could have been filled by anyone. It didn't have to be a superhero character at all, and it certainly didn't have to be a half-assed Iron Man replacement. Certainly not. But more about Ironheart later. So nothing against the actress. It's just I feel the character itself is not well written, and well, if something is not well written, you can be the best actor in the world and it doesn't matter. You can't do anything with it. Anyway, moving on to the story. I feel the story is actually quite interesting. But again, it's like with the characters. So the story is interesting. They have a lot of great ideas in there. They've changed some things around when we talk about Namor and his undersea kingdom. So as far as I understand it, and I didn't read the comics, but as far as I understand it, in the comics, he is the son of a human and an Atlantean princess, basically something like that. So he is an Atlantean prince, basically, much like Aquaman in DC. Okay, but for this movie they changed him, and I can say that because it was in the promotional material. So again, this is not really a spoiler. So I can say that in the movie he's a Mayan, and his tribe was basically driven off to the sea by the conquistadores. This is one of the things I would say where the movie tried to get some more woke points. By changing a character that was basically just, I mean, it's Atlantis, okay? It's a mythical kingdom from the ancient times, so it doesn't have anything to do with colonialism or the big bad white man driving off native people. But so they had to change this around to score some extra woke points. Okay, whatever. It's what I said at the beginning. I don't like that. Please keep politics out of your movies, okay? But at the end of the day, what I have to admit is that they actually did something interesting with this here. So if we have Namor just being an Atlantean prince, I don't think you could have had the kind of interesting story arc with him that they did in the movie. So changing him to a Mayan actually, yeah, I have to say it. They actually made it more interesting in my eyes. I don't know the source material, so it can totally be the case that there's an awesome story in the comics about Namor that they didn't translate into the movie to get their woke points. But what I saw, I really think they did something interesting with it. At least that. But I will still say that it is disrespectful to take something someone else created and change it to suit your own agenda and your own purpose. That is disrespectful against the source material, that and the creator of that source material. That I will say, and that I will stand by. But anyway, so interesting story there. Just I would have wished they created their own character for it instead of taking one from the comics and changing it. That's all I say. So anyway, interesting story there. The interaction between Namor and the Wakandans, again, very interesting. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this story that I found to be, yeah, as I said, interesting, intriguing. Yeah, and that's about it. What I can say about the story, because again, like with the characters, the translation to the screen and to the audience didn't quite work because the nuances, the presentation, it was just not, it was presented in a very blunt way. Let me say it like that, in a very blunt way. There wasn't a lot of nuance about it. There wasn't a lot of finesse about how the story was presented. It was very blunt. And yeah, it just didn't connect with me. I was sitting there like, yeah, there's an interesting story somewhere in here. It just doesn't come out. Similar with the characters. There's a lot of interesting characters in the movie, and they just, you see they're in there somewhere, but they're not coming out. So the movie left me quite uninterested for vast stretches of its long runtime. I mean, it's 160 minutes. It could do with less, and I don't say with less action or less dialogue, but it could do with less. Yeah, actually, I do say it could do with less action. Actually, there's a lot of action in here, and it could do with some less of that. And I also think story-wise and character-wise, they could trim off some of the fat, I think, and still end up with a good movie that has a little bit of a better pacing. So, I do like long movies to get me right here. Some of my most favorite movies of all time are 3, 4, and even more hours long. I mean, I have movies in my collection that are like almost 5 hours long. I have even one that is like 6 hours long. So I do like myself some long movies if they can justify their runtime, and I feel like this movie can't quite. So it should at least not be longer than 2.5 hours, and 161 minutes is definitely too long. But anyway, so good story in there. Just yeah, the movie feels uneven. It feels a little bit like it should have basically needed a few more weeks or months in the cutting room. Basically, watch it again, trim some fat, rearrange some things, maybe re-record a few of the worst dialogue scenes, something like that. I mean, you could make it better with a little bit more time, a little bit more work. Speaking of a little bit more time, a little bit more work, and making it better, the movie cost $250 million to make. It doesn't look like $250 million. It looks like about $100 million, if I'm really generous. I don't know what the hell is going on with Marvel. I mean, their movies used to, I mean, of course, they always had some things in their movies that didn't look quite right, but it was always just a few details or a scene here and there. And with this movie, it's just the whole movie that just doesn't look right. I mean, there are scenes that are good. Do get me right. There are scenes where the effects look really good, kind of what you expect from a movie of this scale and from a Marvel movie at that. But there's also a lot of scenes and effect shots that don't look that good, and it's also the production design. I mean, Wakanda looks like Wakanda, but everything that is new in this movie, the production design just sort of looks off. It's the costumes, it's the sets. It's just it doesn't look real in a sense. It doesn't look it doesn't get that, you don't get that feel like this is a real place or this is a real outfit that someone would wear. It's all like it looks artificial, if you get my meaning. The effects as well, they just don't look. Yeah, they just don't look quite finished. They don't look quite as high quality as we're used to. The best example of this would be the Ironheart suit. So I did say we'll come back to Ironheart, and that's the suit that I was talking about. So we have the year 2022, and the Ironheart suit, which is basically just another version of the Iron Man suit, looks worse than the 2008 Iron Man suit. I mean, both in terms of design and in terms of effects. So the design, I mean, Jesus Christ, it looks like a Power Ranger, okay? Who the hell came up with that? It doesn't look cool. Why does it have to look like that? It's just damn ugly. It's what it is. I mean, we have seen so many iterations of the Iron Man suit, and all of them look great. I mean, some look better, some looked worse, but all of them looked at least great. And now we have the Iron Heart suit, and it looks atrocious. What the hell? Yeah. You couldn't come up with a better design for a $250 million movie. Yeah, right. And the effects for the movie, okay? The effects, Jesus Christ. There's almost no texture. What do I say? There's almost no texture. There's no texture to the suit, to the materials. The lighting of the suit looks atrocious. It's just smooth and unreflective and dull. It's just a colored blob on the screen. It's really, and I really tried to be fair here. I knew this suit was coming up. I knew there was criticism leveled at it, and I was like, okay, I will see for myself. And I really made sure I gave it all my attention when it was on screen. And yeah, it looks bad. It looks really bad. I'm not an expert on special effects, but seriously, I know when a material looks realistic on screen and when it does not, and this does not look realistic. This looks atrocious. Seriously, it's yeah. And to get me right here, I'm not leveling this criticism at the effects people, because I know what they have to go through over the past few years. I mean, the conditions they have to work under are, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what's up with Hollywood. Jesus Christ. You are treating these people like dirt. But they make your effects. They make your movies look good or not if you don't treat them right. So I don't know what's going on there. I just want to make it very clearly, very clear that I'm leveling this criticism, any criticism that is about effects, not at the effects people, but at the studio, for not giving them enough time, for not giving them enough money, for changing stuff 100 times and not giving them time to implement these changes, and not giving them the money to implement these changes. I'm leveling that criticism at the studio, not at the people making these effects. Seriously, I don't know how much longer that situation will go on. I don't know how much longer it can go on. It's not right what is happening, and I hope it will change at some point. But anyway, so the effects are bad. The studio is at fault here. They are making a $250 million movie, and they do not ensure that their effects look good, because they know they can get away with it. Their movie will make money, no matter how it looks. At least for now. I hope people will get fed up at some point. Of course, I know I'm guilty as well. I have paid money to see the movie, so yeah, I'm part of the reason why the movie is successful. But anyway, I feel like I might get fed up at some point if this continues, because there's so many movies that are much older than this one that have better effects. And that is sad. Effects should get better with time, not worse. Anyway, let's move on. So that's that I had to say about the effects. Then production design, I already said, places don't look real, costumes don't look real. And the Underwater Kingdom, I don't know what's up with that. I mean, you get this big build up. There's an underwater civilization that is really powerful and ancient and whatnot. And then what you see of that is a few blurry underwater shots that are really dark, that don't really reveal much, and 2 or 3 blurry white shots of their city with a glowing pyramid in the center, something like that. And yeah, that's it. Now, I see what they were probably trying to do here. They were like, yeah, okay, this is really deep in the ocean. It's dark down there. There's not much light. And whatever light artificial light you have down there will not carry far. And that is right. Except this is a movie about the freaking underwater kingdom, okay? So, screw the realism. Show us something awesome. I mean, you don't have to look far. Just look at what Aquaman did. It's basically the same concept, the underwater kingdom. And in that movie, you can clearly see that the makers of the movie, they knew how silly the concept even is, to have an underwater kingdom populated by human-looking beings. I mean, that in on itself is a silly concept, okay? And they just basically said, okay, it's silly. It doesn't have to be realistic. It just has to be awesome. And they went with it. There's so much unrealism in that movie, Aquaman, that it is just basically, normally I would tear a movie like this apart, but in that instance it worked. I mean, it was just great fun to just see them ignore any kind of physics law and any kind of realism. They just said fuck it all and made whatever the hell that came to their mind, and it looked awesome and it was a fun movie. And in Wakanda Forever, they were like, yeah, it has to be realistic. We have an underwater kingdom. It has to feel like it's underwater. Screw it. It's an underwater kingdom. Make it look awesome. What the hell is wrong with you? But anyway, this is another thing where people might have a different opinion. So my opinion is they failed. They utterly failed. They were building this up. I was really looking forward to seeing it. And at the end of the day, it was very underwhelming. And I felt like cheated. Okay. I mean, they paid money for this thing. Anyway. Yeah, I think that's about it. So to sum it up, I would give the movie a solid 5 or 6 out of 10 at the moment. I felt like there was a great movie in there somewhere that didn't quite come out. And I have to tell you that I probably have to revise my rating when I see it a second time, because I had to do this with Eternals actually. So when I came out of Eternals, I also would say, yeah, it's like a 5 out of 10. Actually, no, I even gave it a 4 out of 10, I think, when I came out of the movie then. I really didn't like it. But I also felt like there was something better in there. So I went back, basically I bought the Blu-ray disc and I gave it a second chance. I watched it again and I was like, yeah, actually it's not that bad. It could have been better, but at the end of the day, it's like 7 out of 10, something like that, okay? So I feel like Wakanda Forever might be a similar thing where I feel like if I watch it the second time, it might actually grow on me and I'll rate it better, probably. Not sure. It could go either way. Right now, as I said, a 5 or 6 out of 10, I would say. Should you go and watch it? Well, if you're an MCU fan and watch any MCU movie anyway, well, this is not worse than the past few entries. Maybe even a little bit better. If you're not an MCU fan and just want to see an entertaining movie, well, one thing is for certain, you'll have to see the first one. You have to know that somewhat. You have to have that in recent memory, because of course there's a lot of reference to the first movie, to the characters in there, so that helps. You can't just go see it as a standalone movie, and it will connect to future MCU movies. I think there's a lot of stuff set up in here that will feature into future MCU movies. Especially at the ending, you will get a hint that there's something big coming with the things that are set up in this movie. So don't go watch it as a standalone movie. Watch it if you're watching the MCU, if you're following that. If you want to see more movies in the future of the MCU, if you have seen the past MCU movies, otherwise don't go see it, I would say. Yeah. Anyways, that's it about Wakanda Forever. And yeah, I hope you liked this review. If you did, please leave a like below and come back for future movie reviews. And consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, until next time, I wish you all the best. Have a great time. Be safe. Stay healthy. Bye.